As an independent institution of higher education and a registered body, Cambridge Muslim College relies on its friends, patrons and supporters from across the UK and beyond. Help Cambridge Muslim College train the next generations of future thinkers, scholars and leaders, and continue delivering education series like our Ramadan programming. You can support our vital work by becoming a friend or patron, or by giving a one-off donation, whatever the amount, or you can also pay your zakat to the college, directly benefiting students in need. Visit cambridgemuslimcollege.ac.uk/donate and donate today. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum everyone, my name is Shoaib Malik and I'll be walking you through the series of God, Islam and Science. Today we'll be having our second session, which is to do with science and scientism. So if you recall from our presentation last time, I briefly alluded to that there is a distinction between science as a method and scientism as an ideology. Today we'll be unpacking that and seeing exactly why scientism cannot be true. And there are a couple of ways that I want to approach this conversation. The first is philosophical, so just engaging scientism on its own merits. And then we'll take a step back and look at it, or at least start looking at it from a theological lens, setting the stage for the third and fourth session, inshallah. So, the claim of scientism is that science is the only way of understanding the world around us. Anything that is unscientific, anything that cannot be proven through science, or anything that is not linked to scientific conclusions immediately is pseudoscientific, it's irrational, it's meaningless. I'm sure that you've come across such ideas before, and I'm sure you've come across people who advocate for such ideas. What I want to do is philosophically walk you through three main criticisms against this line of thinking. These are, number one, the self-refuting nature of scientism. Number two, the presumptions of scientism. And then number three, the metaphysical limitations of scientism. Now, these may seem like heavy words, and believe me, they're not, right? I will unpack this for you, inshallah. And I know, like I said, many of you are fasting. So am I, by the time this episode comes out. So, but don't worry, inshallah. This will be easy to follow. So, when we analyze scientism, the claim of scientism, that only scientific claims are true, reliable, or the best, this in of itself is problematic. Because if you apply this very condition onto itself, it is no longer scientifically proven. The very claim that we use science and that's the only way to make sense of reality is itself a philosophical claim. It's not a scientific one at all. It's equivalent to people saying there is no such thing as a truth, right? There is no such thing. Well, then you ask back, is what you're saying true or not? If you're saying it's true, it undermines yourself. If you're saying it's false, then you've just proven the opposite, right? So similarly here, when we have individuals who claim that science is the only true, reliable way of understanding the world, this is inherently self-contradicting. And that is one of the fundamental flaws of people who advocate for scientism as the only way of looking at reality. I hope that's relatively straightforward. The second is to do with the presumptions of science. Now, when we do science, right, whether we recognize it or not, there are certain things we are holding true about the world, right? And these things have to be true in order for science to get off the ground. What are these things? They're called presuppositions. The first presupposition is that there is extra-mental existence. Like, oh, Shoaib, big word. What is extra-mental, right? So mental is what's in your mind. Extra-mental is what's out there. So this cup right here is an extra-mental existence. It exists outside of my mind. This laptop right here is outside of my mind. It exists in reality, right? So we do believe there is an extra-mental existence. There is a reality out there. There is a world out there. There are trees that I can analyze. There are stones that I can analyze. There's a universe that I can analyze. This is a presupposition. You need that in order to do science. Number two, you also need this concept of uniformity. Now, what do I mean by uniformity? It simply means regularities. So take, for example, this cup again, right? So I'm sitting right now in Cambridge recording this session. If I drop this cup, this is going to go down. I'm not going to actually drop it, but just imagine it dropping, right? Now, what is causing this thing to go down? Gravity. Now, if I do the same thing in Dubai, in Edinburgh, in the States, it will always go down, right? Now, when we do enough experiments, or when we have enough observations, we are able to generalize expectations, right? Similarly, for example, when you take medicine and you feel better, you develop expectations when you take medicine in the future, right? Similarly, when you drink water, right? When you're thirsty, you know when you drink water, your thirst is quenched. Those are regularities or uniformities that we are understanding in nature. And one of the fundamental presuppositions of science is that those regularities exist. They're out there. And these are regularities that are true. If there were no regularities out there for us to analyze, we would never be able to generalize and extract a law. If every time we drop something and it went into a different direction, rather going down, sometimes go up, some go left, some go right, we would never be able to develop and generalize a law. If any time we experimented with medicine and it gave us different conclusions every time, we would have no way of devising medical cures. So there being laws inherent within the universe is a fundamental presupposition. And the reason why that's important is it then makes you think, where did those laws come from? Where did those laws come from? Now, these uniformities are of two types. This is me getting slightly more technical, but nothing too fancy out there, right? So there are regularities where we believe that what was held in the past will be held in the future. So if I drank water in the past and I felt quenched, I'm going to experience the same thing in the future. This is known as temporal regularity, regularity in time. Then we also have spatial regularity across different places. So like I said, I'm sitting in Cambridge recording this video. If I drop this in Cambridge, it will go down. If I drop this in Dubai, it'll go down. If I drop this in the States, it will go down, right? So that's the second presupposition. And the third presupposition is, again, presupposition just means the assumptions that you have in mind, which you are using to do this exercise, right? This third one is we can actually use our ideas to map reality. So take a step back, right? So we can actually construct equations, theories, explanations, and see if they hook onto existence, right? If we did not have that ability, so let's say we could imagine everything, but they were not mapping onto the world, then there's a clear disconnect. In order for science to get off the ground, we do presume that the ideas that we hold have some kind of correspondence with reality. If we did not have that presumption, whether we acknowledge it or not, if we did not have that, there'd be no way we can then ever claim that what we know is true, what we know is right, what we know is worth pursuing. It is only with that presumption in place that what you have in your mind is somehow correlated with reality or correlating to reality, can you do science. So let's take a step back, right? So we talked about the presumptions of science. First presumption, there is extramental existence. There are realities beyond and outside of my mind. Number two, there's uniformity, right, of laws. These uniformities are the reasons for us doing science. These regularities are the basis for laws of nature, right? The laws of nature is how we come to develop theories and explanations which we can rely upon for medicine, for engineering, for physics, for chemistry, for biology, right? And number three, the very fact that we can think about these things and hook them onto the world is something that we presume. We do believe we have the machinery to be able to understand the world is a presumption of science. It is for this reason Einstein said the very fact that the universe is intelligible is interesting. The universe did not have to be that. We just seem to be in a universe where our ideas seem to hook onto reality. So I hope that's clear, inshallah. Now, The third thing is to do with the limitations of science, right? So for those of you who just want to, retrace our steps, we first looked at the self-refuting nature of scientism. Scientism is the claim that, we can't, scientism itself undermines its claims. Number two, we looked at the presumption of science. Now we're on the third criticism of scientism, right? Which is that there are certain things that sciences can't really demonstrate. And there are a couple of things here. Number one, mathematical truths, right? There are truths in mathematics for which we don't need scientific experiments, right? 2 + 2 = 4 is something I calculated in my mind. There was no experiment that I did. 2 × 8 is 16, right? And that is something I didn't look out in the world to do. Divisions as well, right? So there are these things that science just does not seem to have any control over, but yet we seem to have sense of. Mathematical truth being one of them. The other, and maybe considered a cousin of mathematics, are logical truths, right? There are things that we know logically, rules of the mind, that we know just work. For example, we know that 50% cannot be greater than 100%. We know if you divide 50% as the half of something, that can never be bigger than more than that, right? More than the complete thing. And that's because it would entail a contradiction. I didn't do an experiment for that. I didn't do anything for that. All I did was just exercise that rule in my mind. So logical truth is a space where science doesn't seem to have any bearing upon, right? If you want another example, think of a squared circle, right? You have a square, which is a 4-sided object, has 4 corners, and a circle that doesn't have any edges and straight sides. So can there be such a thing called a squared circle? Not really. How to determine that? Just through pure reasoning, logic, right? Then there are things like axiology. Now you're like, oh, what is this word axiology? Axiology, in very simple terms, is the study of values. And there are 2 sub-branches here. There's aesthetics, right, which is study of beauty. Why, for example, do you like certain paintings, right? Why do you like certain food preferences over others? I love hamburgers, for example, right? That's a preference that I have, right? That's aesthetics. Then there are moral values, the study of what is right and wrong, halal and haram, right? Now I'll give you a clear example to indicate how science does not approach or cannot discuss or make claims about what's good and bad. Imagine that you have a pill, right? And this pill is very potent, right? It can potentially kill specimens. So you've got 2 scientists, right? Scientist A gives this pill to, let's say, a rabbit, right? That rabbit dies. Scientist B gives the same pill to another rabbit, and that rabbit dies, no problemo. Now, what happens in the concluding process? Scientist A says, whoa, this pill can kill a rabbit, and therefore it is potentially lethal, therefore we shouldn't be giving it to human beings. Okay. Scientist B says, no, this is amazing, we can use it to kill people around the world. Now, the question is, where did that moral judgment come from? Did that come from the experiment itself or from the individuals? Clearly the individuals, right? In other words, the point of that thought experiment was to show you that you cannot find good and bad in test tubes nor telescopes. It comes from people. People make declarations of what is good and bad. Scientists cannot tell you what is good and bad. Scientists can help inform us making bad, decisions that can be conducive to society or not, but it can never ground morality. Can never actually ground morality. So I hope that's a good case study for you to ponder and think about. So again, to retrace our steps, we looked at philosophical critiques of scientism. Scientism is self-refuting. It undermines itself. Number 2, we talked about the presumptions of science, right? And there were 3 in total. We talked about there being extramental existence, uniformity of laws, and the very fact that we can map the world with our ideas. And we talked about the metaphysical limits of science, right? There are mathematical truths that science does not seem to control or, have a space in, right? There are logical truths, right? That we can, we have access to these ideas that don't require empirical verification. And there are axiological truths, truths to do with value, right? Truths to do with goodness, both in terms of our preferences of beauty, as well as what is right and wrong. So those are some of the philosophical critiques out there. There are many more, but I just wanted to give you a very nice overview that I hope you can digest while fasting in Ramadan. The next part of this presentation is now looking at it from a theological lens, right? And I want to keep this simple for now because the heavy duty stuff will be coming up in the next two sessions, right? So let's take a simple step. So we do believe there's Allah, there's God, okay? And there's everything other than Allah, right? So this is all of creation. Now creation has two parts to it, right? There's a part that we can see, which we call alam al-shahada, and there's a part which you cannot see, alam al-ghayb, right? Now, we live in a world where we are in this world that is visible to us. But part of our belief system is there are things that we cannot see. Angels, hellfire, jinn. We believe in these things because Allah informed us about this in scripture. Okay, so far so good. Now, in reality, this is now where the link to science becomes stronger here. We do believe there are laws of nature. Okay, very, very easy to understand. Gravity is there, quantum mechanics is there, chemistry laws are there, fantastic. But Muslims also believe in miracles. So how is it now possible that Muslims can believe in both in laws of nature in the visible world and miracles? How do you square that? This is something that we'll be looking at inshallah in the next two sessions, right? Now, laws of nature, right? Of course, these are things that we're still uncovering. We uncover new laws all the time. What we now know is far superior than what we knew 1,000 years ago. And maybe, inshallah, we may have other laws that may, completely surprise us in the future, right? And I'm talking about things like we're in a world where AI seems to be gaining, prominence. And I don't know what kind of laws of nature are surrounded around AI. Can it be sentient? I have no clue. I mean, it's an interesting world that we're living in, right? Multiverses. Could there be other universes beyond ours, right? All of those are very interesting areas that I think will open up a lot of exploration, okay? So the laws of nature is our realities that are out there, and we use science to get a grip of those realities. So to take a step back, you have God, creation. Creation is divided into two parts. The part that we can see, the part that is not visible to us, the unknown. And then within the visible world, we have laws of nature and miracles. Now, the laws of nature are not always known to us. We are still developing those understandings, and we seem to be working through them bit by bit. And only Allah knows how far we'll be able to understand the totality of reality. Now, why am I giving you this framework? Because in the next two sessions, inshallah, what we want now to do is to understand how do we justify this. So far, these are mere assertions. I've just asserted God exists. I've just asserted there's a creation. I've just asserted there are miracles and laws of nature. But how do you prove those? How do you really claim that you can justify those beliefs in an age where science is the benchmark, in an age where there is uncertainty about God? This is where we'll step into the next two sessions, inshallah, where we'll look into something called the contingency argument. So in the Islamic tradition, we have several proofs of God's existence. One of them is known as Dalil Imkan, the contingency argument. And unfortunately, it seems like it's a very technical argument at times, but I believe that there is a way of demonstrating this argument in very simple terms. And it is my hope that you'll be able to follow me through this argument in two parts. I've broken down to two parts for the sake of simplicity and ease for session 3 and session 4, inshallah. So do stay tuned. I look forward to seeing you again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ramadan provides us with an invaluable opportunity to increase our piety, our God consciousness. It is also an opportune time to give generously in charity. As an independent institution of higher education and a registered charity, our work relies on the generosity of individuals like you. During this blessed month, we ask you to support Cambridge Muslim College. You can do so through regular giving, by becoming a friend or patron, or one-off donations, whatever the amount. This Ramadan, our goal is to make 10,000 new friends. Head to the donate page on our website, become a friend for as little as £5 a month, and help us continue delivering educational programs like this for the wider community, training the next generation of Muslim scholars, thinkers, and leaders.